Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you want to get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, shh. Calm down. The show is about to start.
Reese on the radio.
Turn it up. Turn it up low. Turn it up loud.
It's like a dream come true.
Turn on your radio. Reese is on the radio.
Yo, let's get it.
Due to the nature of this program, discretion does not exist. It's Reese on the radio. Right now on WTIC News Talk 1080.
I tried. As soon as I said it, I knew it. I felt it. After the show on Monday, I knew it was going to happen. In the great words of Michael Corleone.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
Just when I thought I was out, this son of a gun pulls me back in. I just said it. What was it, last week? It had to be Friday. I said I was going to lay off this guy. I was going to bother him anymore. Last time I talked about it was like Sunday. I was like, I'm not going to bring this guy up. He's polling at 1%. What use do I have to beat up on this guy? It made no sense. Not like, hey, Reese's ever going to be on the show. And I know I had delusions of grandeur to think that he would come on the program. Yeah, I know. I was misguided, silly, crazy even. And I said, what's the use just beating up on the guy? I seem like a bully. So I said I was going to lay off. But then, I don't know, he decided to just show up everywhere. I guess maybe he thought, hey, maybe this 1% isn't enough for me. I need to gain some more ground. I've been in every publication. I've been on every podcast except the ones that matter. And I've decided I'm going to be seen doing my job. Show up at these Senate hearings. Figure I berate a few cabinet secretaries. And I end up on the news. And he did. He was successful, ladies and gentlemen. He was. And it was easy. It was easy pickings. It was fish in a barrel for me to make fun of this guy with all the nonsense that he was spewing. And then he did this morning. Out of Politico, and everyone's talking about it. And I have to be honest. This will be his undoing. I have to be honest with you. This will be Chris Murphy's undoing. Your judgment is askew, Senator. You are a liar. You are a bold-faced liar. There's no other way to put this. You lied to the American people. You were a surrogate for this man, former President Joseph R. Biden, and you lied to the American people. And you think that this quote in Politico is going to save you, give you some sort of salvation, or at least garner the trust of the American people, much less nutmeggers? You can forget about it. Murphy says, no doubt. Folks, you have no idea. Those two words absolutely disqualify him. Chris Murphy says, no doubt, Biden suffered cognitive decline while in office. Not during the campaign, not when he resigned, while in office. And he thinks, and I'm telling you, he's under this belief, he's going to be the guy that says, I'll do it. The rest of you are being wishy-washy. I'll be the champion of the American people. I'll tell the truth. No, Mr. Murphy, you will not get away with that. You will never be allowed to get away with that. And all you people who sit up here and call up this show defending him against Donald Trump, folks, I defend this. Defend all of it, because we're going to go through it. We're definitely going to go through it. Remember, when we were all saying that Joe Biden was in mental decline, Christopher Murphy was telling everyone that Joe Biden is a compelling figure.
Listen, I think the president is an incredibly compelling figure, and I would hope that the White House will send him out all over the country to just be who he is, right? He comes across as Scranton Joe Biden when he is engaging with voters, and I hope he does more of that. I think he will.
Yes, he is a compelling figure. Well, he's a much more compelling figure when he's Scranton Joe Biden. That was Chris Murphy on ABC News. That wasn't even it. It gets worse than that. After the debate, Chris Murphy was asked about his support for Joe Biden. Here's what he said.
I support Joe Biden, period, stop. But I know that there are a lot of voters out there that need to be convinced that Thursday night's debate performance was a bad night. And ultimately, I'm supporting Joe Biden. I'm going to vote for Joe Biden, but the president needs millions of votes.
I support Joe Biden, period. Stop. Murphy says, no doubt, Biden suffered cognitive decline while in office. Period. Stop. He supported him. Maybe Chris Murphy has bad judgment, because he also said this about his trust of Joe Biden.
Let me just ask you straight this key question. Do you think President Biden should remain on the Democratic Party's ticket as the nominee for president?
I take the president at his word. He has said that he believes that he is up to do this job. I have seen him do this job at an absolutely exceptional level. No president has had this level of legislative accomplishment in their first 4 years as Joe Biden. I think that he's got to go out there this week and show the American public that he is still that Joe Biden, that they have come to know and love. I take him at his word. I believe that he can do it. But I think that this is a really critical week. I do think the clock is ticking.
Yes, the clock is ticking. I take Joe Biden at his word. I take Joe Biden at his word. And that wasn't even the worst of it. In that little answer, remember what Chris Murphy says in that little tidbit. Let me take you back to today's statement. Quote, no doubt Biden suffered cognitive decline while in office. How does Chris Murphy know that? He said it right there. He said, I've seen Joe Biden in person.
I have seen him do this job at an absolutely exceptional level.
I've seen him do this job as an exceptional level. Sir, therefore you are lying. You told Dana Bash and the American people, the very few who watched that show, that you've seen him do this job. And I know you can't see it on the video, but I want you to watch it. When he's looking at the camera, he's squinting at it. He's like affirmative in his resistance to anyone who would think that Joe Biden wasn't on his P's and Q's.
I have seen him do this job at an absolutely exceptional level.
Yeah, in an exceptional level. That's not even the worst part. Chris Murphy, who's now saying, no doubt Biden suffered cognitive decline while in office. Chris Murphy told us before he was with them a lot.
All of that doesn't happen without Joe Biden. He is a master legislative tactician. He was involved in a detailed way in the passage of all of those bills. I know because I wrote the gun bill, and I was talking to Joe Biden on a regular basis. You pair that together with this dramatic expansion of the economy, America recovering at a faster pace than all of our other high-income competitors, and there is really zero evidence that Joe Biden can't do this job.
Zero evidence that he could do this job, that he can't do this job. Zero evidence. Until now. Until now, Chris Murphy. Democratic Senator Chris Murphy said there's no doubt the former President Joe Biden suffered a cognitive decline in office. It would have been better for the party if he hadn't run for re-election. Quote, there's no doubt about it. The debate is whether it was enough that it compromised his ability to act as chief executive. Now he's talking about whether or not Joe Biden could act as chief executive. Now he's questioning it. He's having the same argument I had yesterday about whether or not he was ever able to do his job. But you heard him in his own words. I've seen him do this job. I've worked with him, hand in hand, foot to foot, toe to toe. He's a compelling figure. They should put him out there more. This disqualifies this dude. Who can trust him now? That's what this whole exercise is about. That's what all of this is about. And the reason why Chuck Schumer is saying we're moving forward. Timo Obama is saying we're moving forward. J.D. Pritzker, we're moving forward. Not Chris Murphy. He thinks that this is the way to go. Chris, let me help you, buddy. Lie. It's what you do best. How do we know? Do we need to go back to this?
I have seen him do this job at an absolutely exceptional level.
Stick to lying. You do that brilliantly. Don't come out here now all of a sudden you want to tell us after the fact. After the fact? And you think that this is a winning argument for you? No. You were questioning anyone who even brought it up. You chastised them. You condemned them. You blamed President Trump for it. Anyone who would suggest it was just right-wing propaganda. You know it. I know it. Everybody knows it. It's everywhere. And this crazy part about this Politico ad, everybody picked up on it. And I know some people are going to say, wow, the candor of Chris Murphy. It won't last. And when I tell you this, look, my wife gets mad at me all the time. She goes, it's actually kind of annoying, Reese, when you predict how the news media is going to react to this. Because it's easy. This is grade school. Every person who knows anything about this subject knows that Chris Murphy did himself no favors here. He's calling himself, even in the article, they're saying, Murphy, who's widely viewed as a potential 2028 presidential contender, also said it would have been helpful to Democrats if Biden declined to mount a 2024 bid. You mean the one that he helped on? Quote, I mean, isn't that self-evident? We lost. Obviously, in retrospect, we should have done something different. The likelihood is the odds were pretty stacked against us no matter what. But clearly people were looking for change, and neither Biden nor Harris were going to be able to offer real message of change. That means that Chris Murphy had no insight. He had no foresight. He was just towing the party line, which means he is not independent. He is not independent of thought. He's not a thoughtful person. He is not honest with the American people, and he can't. He will never be. Because this was about the party. In his view, this wasn't about his constituents. It wasn't even about the electorate. It had nothing to do with that. It had everything to do with stopping Donald Trump and dragging Joe Biden across the finish line. which apparently he knows. Again, he's always known that Joe Biden couldn't do the job. This doesn't answer a thing. It begs more questions. What did you know and when did you know it? You told us in your own words. You worked with this man. You were close to him. Hell, let me see. Do I have this? Yeah, here he is. Look at that. He was touting this very picture of him sitting with Joe Biden at the White House. There's the evidence right there, right in front of you. Chris Murphy was posting pictures everywhere. Look at me and the president. So you were right there.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
You worked with him, and you told everybody else that he was okay. How can we trust you? You have to explain that. How can anybody trust you? People say it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter now. Explain to me how. Credibility doesn't matter? I'm going to tell you this. Try this on for size. And I'm going to shock the system of leftists, those in my chat room and those who are listening to me right now. I think it was a guy by the name of Mike who called up here before the election and said, I can't believe that African Americans would trust Donald Trump to be president of the United States because he wouldn't let African Americans live in his apartment buildings in the 1970s. Or that he put out a full-page ad in the New York Times against the Central Park Five. Things that happened 30 and 40 and close to 50 years ago. I can't believe you would trust him. Chris Murphy lied about the president of the United States up until 6 months ago. If we're holding people accountable for their deeds, if we can hold them accountable for 4 decades, 6 months ago is a cakewalk. It's a cakewalk. He has a recent record of deceiving, a proven record of deceiving. And I only grabbed, 7 pieces of audio that prove that he lied? And he's the 2028 contender? What's it going to take? Look, Connecticut, I know you're going to support the guy. I know you can't. You would think nothing other than to support him. But while you're running around telling everybody else about what it means when they vote for Trump or when they stand behind Trump, when you're telling everybody else about what kind of people they are, how dare you support that guy? You must be a bigot. You must be a racist. You must be a liar. You must be a deceitful liar if you support this guy. He's worse than that. He's an elder abuser. Because if he was his friend, if he cared about him, he would have told him, you're not doing well, sir. And for the betterment of the country, you've got to step down. You would have joined everybody else who said that what was happening to him was wrong. Be it his son, his wife, his aides, his press secretary, Barack Obama, all of them. Everybody said, get him off the stage. And even when we caught them doing it, they said it was nothing there. Nothing was wrong. You're all a bunch of liars. Chris Murphy, you lead the pack. You lead the pack, and we've got you dead to rights, and you know it. And anybody who says that this guy's a shoo-in, anyone who suggests that his polling numbers are going to go above 1% after this, one of the biggest scandals in presidential history, anyone who believes that, get your head examined. You may be about as off the reservation as Joe Biden was for his entire presidency. The problem is you. We'll take your phone calls. 860-522-WTIC, 860-522-9842. Tell me what you think. Does this help or hurt Chris Murphy being the first one out the gate to say that Joe Biden was in cognitive decline, apparently through his presidency? We'll see you on the other end of it. It's Reese on the radio, News Talk 1080 WTIC.
Reese on the radio, making sense of the news. Yeah, even when it makes no sense at all. Now on WTIC, News Talk 1080.
Now, you know, it's Thursday. It's Thursday, so you know what that means. And I have to say this. As much criticism as I got for Thursday's show, I tell you all the time, trust your friendly neighborhood Reese on the radio. Because my very limited African-American audience that comes to check out the show, many of them are too busy, snapping their fingers and shaking their tail feathers to hip-hop and R&B, listening to Bang Bang Shoot 'em Up, Negro Die Slow music. But Thursday comes around, just so they could critique Reese on the radio. They show up for the one portion of the show that drives them crazy. Remember, they hate the fact that I do this on Thursday, but they show up every Thursday for it.
Negro nonsense. Negro nonsense. Negro nonsense.
That's right. They're here for it every week. It's like, again, injected with the addiction. That's all it is. It's like saying that you hate it when you know secretly deep down you love it. It's an addiction. It's an addiction you cannot control. But we'll get into that later. Roughly about the 5 o'clock hour. Also, I want to mention we do have a guest on the show today. We're going to be talking to Representative Gary Turco. You might remember him. I talked about him yesterday about some legislation that he has sponsored that we talked about. Actually, that John Vila talked about at the top of the hour news yesterday. This is the Connecticut House passing a bill to regulate social media use for kids. And I need to understand exactly what they're doing. We read the bill this morning. My wife and I went over it. My wife's much better at legalese than I am. It can be confusing. I bear that understanding that it can be kind of difficult to understand. So my wife, who studied to be a paralegal, can understand it way better than I am. So I give it to her so she can break it down to me, like in legal and layman's terms. And she's really, really good at that. So we'll talk to him much later in the day. As promised, to the phones we go. 860-522-WTIC. Rob is in New Britain. How are you, Rob?
Good. The rhythm, the rebel. Reese and rolling the beer.
What's going on, buddy?
I love you guys.
Thank you.
Well, I before I tell you anything, I wanted to call in April because of April Fools, and you shared a story.
Yes.
My mother shared a story about my father. He was a truck driver in Plainville for White Oak Construction Company, drove the big rig. Called his best friend at 4 a.m. before work, told him he got arrested and would he come bail him out. So his buddy got all dressed and got ready to go. And then my father called him back 10 minutes later and said, "Hey, April Fools."
Well, at least he didn't get all the way down to the precinct, because that would have been,
Exactly.
that would have been harrowing.
Exactly.
So what do you got?
I love how you.
Yeah, that was, trust me, it was cruel.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, you bring it, because about West Hartford, everything, the media won't touch everything. I just love how you bring it. Don't be afraid. Keep doing it.
You got it.
And as far as Murphy, I've never voted for him. I never will. And it just shows you, rewind the tape and play it again and again and again.
Indeed.
Until your mind is locked in.
Indeed.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Thank you, Bobby. I appreciate you, sir. Let's go to
Love you guys.
Thank you. Let's go to Bruce is in South Windsor. How are you, Bruce?
Hey, Reese, good. I got on today just as, it's funny, I got a little notification, I think, from Facebook that you were waiting for me. So I jumped in the car and I got on the call and you were talking about the Murphy thing.
Yeah.
And I agree with everything you said. But then I was thinking about it. I said, he can't be that stupid. He knows better. Because had he talked Biden into stepping down, who would we have gotten? That cackling hyena Harris.
Not particularly, though. Hold on. What I'm saying is that Chris Murphy could have been, I mean, I'm looking at this, if I'm going to play fair, right? I'll play fair for just this argument. Let's say Chris Murphy falls on his sword for the Democrat Party and says, listen, sir, you've served your country great. You vanquished Donald Trump, but it's time for you to go. Let's get out early, and we have a primary, and Kamala Harris isn't the candidate. Perhaps someone else is primaried in. You never know if they're smart, right? You may get somebody in the wings that is far more, you could have got Josh Shapiro, at a time where Democrats would have been forced to make a decision about how they feel about Jewish candidates. You could have got Bernie Sanders back in the fold. Anything could have happened, but they would not. Look, Kamala Harris was two things. One, she was a DEI hire. Thank you, Jim Clyburn, because he was the one who admitted it. He admitted it, that she was, that the Congressional Black Caucus said, if it's not Kamala Harris, it's nobody. So they forced her to do that. No one would have forced anything, and Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi could have got somebody in like Mark Kelly. And there's a likelihood that they could have won. But Chris Murphy, even if they had lost by 2028, he could say, when everyone asked about Joe Biden's decline, he could stand outside as an outsider and say, I was the one who told the president early that he should step down because I had to be honest with the American people. He'd be a winner.
I see. That might have worked in his favor. Well, I'm glad he didn't do it. I like the strategy they used. It worked out in our favor.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you, buddy. And again, that's...
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you want to get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Look, it's bottom line. What Democrats have done over and over and over again. And I'm, even though I'm reading all of these comments in the chat room, especially those who want to make this about Trump. Well, Trump lies all the time. Trump lied about this. Trump lied about that. Okay, clearly you have a problem with lies. Clearly you do. So why are you not in the chat room talking about Chris Murphy's lies? Are you suggesting that Chris Murphy's lies are acceptable because Donald Trump lies all the time? So you don't have a problem with lies. You have a problem with whom lies. You see, Chris Murphy, and anybody else for that matter, is allowed to lie as a politician. They cannot be culpable. They cannot be responsible for what they say and what they do because of Donald Trump. That gives them cover. What about Donald Trump? That's all. And I wish you would just say that. But you can't. Instead of addressing the topic, instead of addressing what I've said about Chris Murphy and all of the evidence I just gave you that he lied while wanting to be your commander-in-chief, it is just about but Trump. Which means, again, and I reiterate it, and I stand by it 100%, and it is codified through your statements. You are Chris Murphy. You are the Democrat Party. You have no scruples. You have no integrity. And you stand on all 10 toes behind that. No one should trust you. You don't think that you should have to have integrity. You don't think that you have to be better. You don't think that you have to hold yourself to a higher standard. As long as Donald Trump is Hitler, you might as well be Hitler. If Donald Trump is Hitler, do you get to be Stalin? If Donald Trump is Hitler, do you get to be Lenin? If Donald Trump is a murderous, thieving, The evil piece of garbage. Do you get to be a murdering evil piece of garbage? If Donald Trump is a dictator, do you now get to be a dictator? Does anybody get to be? Because remember, Donald Trump's going to leave in 2028. And the next guy that goes in office, should he be a Democrat? You were saying that they can do whatever you said Trump was doing and not have a problem with it, even if it affects you. This is exactly what. First of all, not all politicians lie. You obviously don't know the definition of all. Donald, please explain to yourself, if you have a simple grasp of the English language, all means every. You have no evidence to support that all politicians lie. You have none. No evidence to support it at all. You see what I did there? You have no evidence to support that all and every lie. None. That's the bottom line. And Bob, no one said that you were absolving Democrats. Do you want me to read your comments? I'd be happy to. When Democrats say this stuff about but Trump and Trump did this and Trump did that, while I'm laying out a conversation about Chris Murphy's the senator of the great state of Connecticut. Donald Trump isn't the senator or the governor of Connecticut. He's the person that you represent, clearly, and you're not holding him to any account. Your excuse for Chris Murphy's lies is Donald Trump lies. Or as Donald put it, all politicians lie. So therefore, you have no standards. You have no scruples. You have no integrity. That has nothing to, and I'll lay it out for you. It only says everything about you. That's what it says. It doesn't say anything about me. I know who liars are. I spent my entire life as a liar. I've got the ex-wives to prove it. See, the difference between myself and a Chris Murphy and plenty of politicians is that at least I can sit up here and tell you, yes, I was a liar. I make it my business to tell the truth today. Because if I'm going to hold them to a standard, I've got to be better. I can't sit here and lie to you and then scrutinize their lies. See, that's the difference between you and me. I'm not excusing their lies. I'm not putting it on another person in order for them to get a pass about their lies. So you say more about yourself than you are about Donald Trump. You say more about yourself than you are about Chris Murphy. Because the only thing you're telling the rest of us is that Chris Murphy should be allowed to lie because everybody does it. Well, how low does that standard get? A lot of people murder, too. A lot of people rob and steal, too. A lot of people maim and kill. A lot of people maim and harm. A lot of people do that, too. At some point, you lower your standards so much, you're in the gutter. So if it's such a problem for you that people lie, it should be a problem to you that Chris Murphy did. That's all. Have a spine. But please, spare me with the nonsense. Don't even bore me with it. What Chris Murphy did was wrong, and now he's trying to redeem himself for it. And that's not going to fly because his comments are there. My wife said it yesterday. Do these people not know they're being recorded? They know. But they can thank Bob and Donald. You know why? Because as much as these people lie, they know that there are defenders out there who are going to give them a pass and blame it on Trump. We'll take a break. We'll come back. More news, more views. Your phone calls, 860-522-WTIC. It's Reese on the radio on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.
It's Reese on the radio. And don't say we didn't warn you on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.
Plenty of news and plenty of views to get into this hour. Like I said, we're going to have Representative, or at least I'm going to double check that we're going to have Representative Gary Turco on the air. He represents Newington. We're going to see if we Again, I'm going to, at least they tentatively said they were going to be here at 4:11, so I'm hoping. I haven't heard any word that they are not, and there has been no cancellation, so they should be here. You may have heard the story at the top of the hour news yesterday at 5 o'clock. John Villa had mentioned that the House had passed a bill to regulate social media use for kids. And according to this story, if I'm understanding it, it is to affect the algorithm on social media, for those of you who are in the know. So the objective is like, if I'm watching something online, I might watch a comedian that has a page, and if I stop and watch the entire video or a significant part of it, the algorithm will tell me or tell itself, hey, he likes this comedian. So as I'm scrolling, it will give me more of the content associated with that individual or like it. So that's how it works. And this, to a lot of politicians, is detrimental to children, scary to children, or scary to parents when it comes to their children. So I want to talk to the representative about that and what they plan on doing, because I'm reading what they're asking social media companies to do, and I'm concerned about how you get them to do that. There's also some comments that suggest, or at least some people are suggesting, that the social media companies may sue to push back on this legislation. We'll get into that, and we'll talk to Representative. Look like they're actually calling up now, getting on the line. So Roland is taking care of that. But if you want to look it up yourself and sort of read along as we have the conversation, it is House Bill 6857. Again, that is House Bill 6857, which would require social media sites that use personalized algorithms to suggest content to determine whether the user is a minor, and if they are a minor, to get consent from the child's parent or guardian. And sounds confusing, but only if you read the legislation. So we're going to get to the bottom of it. Representative Gary Turco is joining us in a little bit. All right, so let's get another check of our weather and traffic with Jason Caterina and Mark Christopher, who's back in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark.
Stay locked in. Reese on the radio is on WTIC News Talk 1080.
We're back. It's Reese on the radio, as the big voice just said, and
it is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
We have on a guest. I don't like to do guests all the time, but when I hear a particular story and I'm interested in it, I like to immediately call up the office of that individual to get them on the air. So, and when I do, for me, I think it's great when I can get them to come on. Even if politically we don't agree, they're willing to come on. And I think that's a good thing, to have these conversations. So welcome to the show, if you will, ladies and gentlemen, none other than Representative Gary Turco of Newington. We appreciate you, sir. Thank you for coming on. And
thank you so much, Reese, for having me.
My pleasure, sir. And under short notice, now I gotta prep you real quick. Are you familiar with the show at all, or is this your first time ever experiencing Reese on radio?
No, this is a new one for me, Reese, but I'm very excited, and I'm hoping after this call can become a long-time listener.
You know what? Let me tell you this. I've got a lot of problems with a lot of legislation. I believe that government sometimes is a little too interventionist in a lot of ways. And this was one of those things that I saw, which made me ask questions, but I didn't immediately dismiss it. I think that one of the biggest problems we have in our society today is the stuff that our children have access to. You know, that's been a huge debate everywhere. Even in this article written about you in the Connecticut Mirror, there was pushback about, this legislation versus library books and all that stuff. We'll get into that to some degree. But before we do, is there a way that you can explain this legislation in layman's terms? Because like I said, there's a lot of legalese, as I said, my wife read to me. What exactly is this legislation poised to do, or what is it supposed to do for parents, if not the social media companies?
Sure, no problem, Reese. Happy to do that. And I do admit, when you're dealing with legislation regarding technology, it could use some big, complicated words, because technology, with everything going on with artificial intelligence, can seem complicated for many of us who, are not in that field working in it every day. So, May is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Okay.
And numerous studies, countless, unfortunately, tragic situations have shown that excessive use of social media by children, and you may be able to say that about adults, but
Sure.
We're talking about children here, can have some negative mental health consequences. So, we're talking about depression, body image concerns.
Sure.
There's even situations where young people have hurt themselves due to the addictive natures of these platforms that continuously feed kids more and more sensationalized content.
Right.
And why do they do that, Reese? Because the social media companies want people to be on the platforms for as long as possible.
Right.
And the way that young brains work, which, may not have the same self-control as an adult, it's clearly working, Reese. The average youth teen is on a social media platform 5 hours a day.
Wow. That's even more than we used to. Remember when we used to say that television, we had excess of 7 to 8 hours a day on the boob tube. So we are now seeing a comparable attention given towards social media. Now the kids don't watch TV. They just pretty much transferred to social media.
Yeah, we're not even counting, right? The additional time they may be watching Netflix, playing a video game, or texting friends, right? We're talking about purely social media platforms. And that's an average of 5 hours a day. So what are these kids doing homework or spending time with their parents or going outside and, getting exercise, right? There's not a lot more time between school and then, infinite doom scrolling on these platforms. And here's the thing. These platforms have features in them that are designed that once you get on, it's a lot harder to get off. And, I've learned this from reading a lot of studies, talking to behavioral, psychological, doctors, watching documentaries, a lot of information out there. So what this bill is trying to say is, let's take the control out of the social media companies, right? These for-profit, giant international tech companies that don't necessarily care about children's health.
Right.
They care about profits.
Right.
Let's take the control out of them. Let's put it in the control of the parents.
Okay. Now let's
the way this bill does this.
Right.
Yes.
Tell me about that. What does the bill do? Or here's a better question.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
How do you transfer that power from the social media to the parent? What can the parent do through this legislation to protect their children?
Yes. So what the bill says is that if an individual is a minor, that's somebody under 18, in order for the social media companies to be able to target them with content, and I heard you use the term before, the personalized algorithm.
Yes.
That is basically data that's collected on the children and then used to help make the content more addictive for them, right? Keep feeding them stuff that you think they're going to want to keep scrolling and seeing. So in order to be able to do that at an infinite amount of time, the parent has to agree to that. Okay. The parent or legal guardian is going to have an opportunity to say, yes, I want this social media platform to be able to continue the targeting my kids, or no, I don't want them. We're taking control away from the company. We're putting in the parents, and there'll be default settings in the platform regarding the time frame, the number of hours of day, who can actually comment and share and connect with your children on these platforms as well. There'll be default settings to protect kids that the parents then could make more restrictive, or they can say, I'm going to just say no to these default settings. Let the platforms have at my kids. It will be up to the parents, which we think is going to be a good thing to help protect our children.
No, don't get me wrong. So far, Representative Gary Turco, you haven't said anything wrong. And that's a good thing here, because I hear what you're saying. What you're asking is that we sort of child-proof these social media companies when their children are accessing them. Because, as a parent, I remember giving the first cell phones to my kids, and they had to ask permission to join Facebook. They had to ask, and when they did, we had to know the passwords. You're now putting something extra on it that says when these kids download these social media apps on their phone or on their tablets or even on their computers, that the parents can go into what's considered the consent form, so to speak. And the parent can go through a list of things that say, this is okay, this is not okay. This is, all right, this is permissible, but it has to go through. But there's a problem here, just one problem that I find in all of this. It seems like these provisions or these prohibitions that the social medias will put in is a one-size-fits all, because don't we have to know which content the parent is asking the social media not to make accessible to their children? How do you combat that? Because there's so much different stuff. And here's what I mean by this. So let me clarify. There may be parents that are okay with their children seeing, things like Candelori is talking about, like books on genderqueer, books about, gender-affirming care. How does a parent navigate through that sort of consent form to say that this is okay and that isn't? Because the content is all over the place. There's no specificity in what that content is. Can you explain how we do that?
Sure. I mean, this bill doesn't speak to that specifically. There may be other technologies that parents can use to try to restrict type of content. We're restricting the targeting that happens based on the data that's collected from youth. And part of the reason that is, Reese, and I'm sure that, there are people that would want to do more to protect minors from seeing pornography on a social media platform, or, something really violent, right? That they shouldn't be exposed to. But there's First Amendment concerns. There's, concerns that certain censure of content will lead towards, legislation being struck down, in the court system because of constitutionality. So that makes it a little difficult. Some other states have tried to do some of those things, and there's litigation going on because of that. So the way, and our Attorney General has helped in really leading and drafting this legislation with a good group of bipartisan legislators. This bill had a really great group of Republicans that supported it with Democrats. It's really crafting it purposefully to say, hey, we're not trying to limit free speech on content. We are saying these companies cannot target our children based on the data they collect to them to make the content more and more sensationalized, to keep them addicted to the platform, doom scrolling instead of other things they should be doing to be a healthy, child, unless the parent wants to allow that. And that's where we're at right now with the legislation.
So it appears to me, Representative, that this is sort of a broad approach to a nuanced problem, because and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think that it's fair to say that if this legislation goes through, if I'm a social media business, I'm going to ask for some specificity on what you think is the wrong kind of targeting towards kids. Now, hear me out. A 17-year-old versus a 10-year-old, right? So what is the parent, like what are you asking each individual? Are you asking each individual platform to adhere to one rule, or is this only going to open the floodgates to a bunch of nuanced things that parents are going to have to like? In other words, I'll put it to you this way. If I'm a parent and I'm giving my kids social media, if I'm looking through a litany of consent that I got to go, A through 20 or A through 90 different things I'm going to have to check off on whether or not my kid can go to it, most parents are going to say, this is too much, screw it. Because I feel like, again, at the end of the day, the parents are going to make a decision, if they know about the legislation, on whether or not they're going to do it. On the other hand, I don't feel like parents are very much involved in what their kids do when they download these social media sites. I think these kids do that on their own and then move on.
That's a great point, Reese, and that's why there's some level of age verification that the platform needs to do
That's
to
fair.
ensure that this individual, if they are a minor, it requires that parental consent. The parents simply are going to have an option to say, keep the default settings or don't. So it could be very easy, especially for those hands-off parents that are not engaged, don't understand technology. The bill says it'd be very easy for them. And there's only right now 3 things in those default settings: that the platforms cannot target the minors with content that's based on that data they collect outside the hours from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., that they can only collect the data on the minor for the max 1 hour a day when using that portion of the platform, and that people who are not connected to the youth. So, for instance, I use Facebook. I have friends.
Right.
So basically, people who aren't friends with the child cannot, make comments and stuff like that.
Right. There must be a now. I'm
the
assuming
default setting.
It's almost like a default setting that I have. Will ask me if I want to make my telephone contacts accessible on my Facebook page as friends. Right. So it's not like just any old random, schmo. I totally get that. Okay, this isn't. Look, it's not awful. I kind of feel like, look, I'm gonna quote Candelaria here because he sort of feels as though there's a little bit of, for lack of a better word, hypocrisy, because while there's this, mayhem going on with libraries and content there, that they seem to be more concerned about what kids are doing in their private lives, but as far as school is concerned, they're allowing access to books that many parents don't have, a lot of agreement with. But that's a topic for another day. Do you think at some time, Representative Turco, that you could come back and we can have a few more conversations about this as the legislation goes through? Because I think it's an important conversation. I'm not totally against it, but what I'm worried about to some degree is the level of pushback you'll get from social media companies and parents, for that matter, who you're asking to do a lot of work to shield their kids that normally they wouldn't. Would you be interested in coming back on as this legislation progresses?
I'd be happy to come back on. And this is an issue, Reese. As the technology develops, artificial intelligence develops,
sure.
More and more of these platforms have more and more features. This is an area, as the vice chair of the General Law Committee, I see as someone who wants to protect the children here in Connecticut, we will have to, constantly be looking at and seeing where laws have to be updated, especially when, for-profit giant tech companies are not doing the things responsibly to keep our children safe on their own.
Absolutely. Look, I agree with you there, and it's one of the things that we talk about here on Reese on the Radio. Thank you. I appreciate you, Representative Gary Turco from Newington. We appreciate you having you on, and we will definitely have you back. I'll stay in touch with your communications director, okay?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on.
You're welcome.
Great day.
You're welcome. You too. All right, let's get another check of the weather and traffic with Jason Catarina with weather, and Mark Christopher's back with the BPS Traffic Center. Hey.
The self-proclaimed love child of Rush Limbaugh.
They're running a strange program, y'all.
Reese on the Radio on News Talk 1080 WTIC.
We'll get to the phones in a second. Stand by for that. 860-522-WTIC, 860-522-9842. I got this.
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Note, it said, well, a couple of days ago, it says no homeschooling bill this session, Dems say. So apparently there is going to be no homeschooling bill this session. It's being pushed back again. So I just want to applaud all of the families of homeschool kids who went out there to protest. I mean, talk about pushing back, getting people to rethink this bill. I knew it would happen. I said it. I said, it didn't go happen in 2019, and there was going to be a considerable pushback. Not only that, the reasoning for it didn't hold any water whatsoever because of the case with the young man S and being held captive for 20 years. To even link that story to homeschooling was disingenuous. And I'm so happy that parents of all stripes, this wasn't a political thing. This was a principle thing. And those families came out in droves to see, some 2,100 people get out there, 2,500 people get out there and protest this thing in solidarity. It was incredible to watch. And I will say this before I get to the phones. This is an important thing to note, that look on the opposite side of this, if you will. Remember why Dick Blumenthal, Chris Murphy, Ned Lamont, Delora, every one of them, why are they having these rallies outside of City Hall and down in Washington and all over the country? Even if they're being paid, it's to give the impression that people are outraged, right? It is the optics that make a point. Think about that on the opposite side with this homeschooling issue. What did you see? An authentic, grassroots effort by parents who are directly impacted by this legislation, going down to the school, going down to City Hall and voicing their concerns organically. And people had to think about it. Now, and I know that, look, there isn't a lot of organization within the Republican Party in Connecticut, but I need you to pay attention to that, because there are people that are saying, what can you do? These homeschooling parents are an example. You don't have to do it the way that they're doing it with the crowds on demand. If there is truly a resistance, if you will, to these policies, and you want to fight them, as much as I love working here at WTIC, and I appreciate your phone calls, but it ain't enough anymore. Now it's got to be handled differently. It's got to be front and center. Your butts have to be outside in the cold some days, in the rain some days, and have a physical presence to let these people know that you cannot have them legislate against your behalf. That's all. That's all I'm saying. And look, it's not so much about fighting fire with fire, but these parents, what they did has to be commended. And it carried weight. You all know it did. So, with that, I just wanted to commend them. Let's get to the phones. 860-522-WTIC. Fulton is in Waterbury. How you doing, Fulton? Gosh, you were loud.
What's up today, buddy?
What's up, man?
All right. I got two things today. I got the homeschooling thing. There's a story that just broke in New Jersey, very eerily similar. Like two parents held a kid 7 years. Like, I don't know if that's going to be their storyline, break homeschooling, but that just came out today in New Jersey.
Okay.
And then I wanted to say, I'm kind of afraid of like what Tim and Hammond said and Chris Murphy. about the cheating in the election.
Yeah.
And I don't know why we won't believe them. They've cheated in the last 3 elections. I agree with them. I think the Democrats will cheat in the next.
That's a good point. I didn't even think of that. You're right on point.
I don't know if that's what you would say if Tim was afraid that they were going to cheat again and wound up attacking his health still. So probably going to self-balance, I think. I don't know. She did the last time.
You know what? It's such a good point because, when we hear this thing about cheating in the election, people forget about the email scandal where we find out through John Podesta's emails that they were hog-tying the entire Bernie Sanders campaign and they were feeding Hillary Clinton questions. A lot of cheating was going on.
Every voter weird thing has been a Democrat thing. Like now there's one in Texas that's sideways. Like, I don't know, more stuffing in Texas. What's going on here? It's all Democrats, never Republicans.
Yeah.
So what is he worried about? What is Chris Murray worried about?
Exactly. Good point. Thank you, Fulton. He's got to get, I know he's calling in the car, but I almost feel like he's in either an airplane or on a motorcycle. But I wanted to make sure he's good. Tom is in Watertown. How are you, sir?
What's up, Reese? Hey, well, first off that last caller, remember, it's always been the case. Whatever the Democrats are accusing others of, they've been doing it.
Damn right.
Hey, but something I've been pondering the last couple of days. I heard it on this radio station. I heard it on the news.
Okay.
And I'm sure you've heard it, is the Connecticut Food Bank is hurting. It's hurting, and they need money. They need food, and they're blaming it on the tariffs. They're blaming it on this, that, and the other thing. Well, I got a question about that. Because we are a sanctuary state, what percentage of the people who are using the food bank, I'd love to find this out, what percentage of people who are using the food bank food are not legal citizens of this country and are here in recent times, and they're being fed off of the food? They're claiming the food bank's hurting when maybe it's not really hurting because it's not going to the right people.
It's a great point. And, when I heard that story, and thank you for reminding me, because I forgot to contact who I consider the person who's got their fingers on the pulse of that whole problem, food insecurity, and that's Karen Thomas of Friendly Hands Food Bank. That woman has never been shy about saying, and I've called her and I said, hey, tell me what's going on. Tell me what you need. And she is talking right now. She's going to move into a new facility. Not that I'm saying the story is false, but I think you bring up a great point because
I'm not saying it's false at all. I'm just curious, what percentage of the food is actually going to people who are legal residents of the state of Connecticut and who are not?
But Tom, I'll go one step further. We found out earlier in the year that the state spent $1.3 billion on these folks. Okay. I'm sure it wasn't for furniture at Ashley's or Bob's, right? I'm pretty sure that money was going to food and housing. So it would be, if it's true that the people who are depleting the services, if you will, at the food bank, then it would say that the problem is that either they're double dipping, that would be one, or two, the money isn't going where they're telling us that it's going. That it's going to places like NGOs and paying for salaries. So you're absolutely right that, you bring, what, it opens up a can of worms, and now I have to go down that rabbit hole. So thank you, Tom.
Sorry about that, buddy.
No, trust me, I appreciate it. It's worth it.
Every time the story came up, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about it. I'm like, well, is it really depleted, or are we shooting it out where it's not supposed to be going?
It's a good, listen, I'll put it to you this way, Tom. Here's an interesting thing. Sometimes the government has a way to bring out a story that ends up being their undoing, right? So they put out a problem and they say, hey, we got a problem. And then people start investigating and they go, ooh, maybe we shouldn't have brought attention to that. But now they have. Thank you, Tom. Much appreciated.
Have a good one.
Yeah, you got
Bye-bye.
it. I got to call. Now I have to call Karen now. I got to find out what the deal is because she would know. She deals with every one of the food banks in the state. When I say this woman is connected, she is connected. They call her Carmela for a reason. Let's go to Chip in Coventry. Hey, Chip.
Reese, my man, I'm gonna listen. I'm having my blood pressure is up. Blood pressure.
Sorry about that.
No, not because of you. And again, like my ex-girlfriend said, Chip, you're not the sharpest tool in the shed, and I never knew what that meant. So when it comes to politics,
which proved her point.
I honestly didn't know. I think it's from Shrek. I don't know, but I think I get it now. But I'm not stupid, and I'm not ignorant anymore after listening. I love your show. Was like, I don't know, man. You should be a zillionaire and get compensated, and then give half to me because you and me are brothers. And that's all I gotta say. But did you? I do love you, bro.
Thank you.
But did you see the grilling from our? Oh my God, Chris Murphy was drilling, and I think it was in the Senate. Our Homeland Security. What's her name?
Kristi Noem. Yes, I actually did play it on. I played it on the air earlier this week, and I was expressing the fact that this is a perfect example of Chris Murphy's inability to have a dialogue with somebody who disagrees with him, because it is his entire 5 to 6 minutes. In his exchange with her was him filibustering the whole thing and then asking her one or maybe two questions at the end of his exchange, forcing her to only answer it within 30 seconds. She had to give a yes or no answer after he spent 4.5 to 5 minutes pretty much chastising her about illegal immigration. Yeah, and I addressed that. I think it was Monday or Tuesday I talked about it. But yeah, I watched it. And then I watched this exchange between him and Robert F. Kennedy. I have that audio too.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you want to get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Tell me if I'm wrong. I want your opinion. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he said to her, being the Homeland Security, ICE and all this. I think he said every illegal immigrant, unquote, has a right to due process, something like that. And I'm like, oh, no. Illegal means illegal. Try going to another country like Iran or China and ask for what these illegals are getting in our country. And I'm thinking, no, we have sanctuary river cities. We have to go by the federal the guidelines. But I'm thinking
they don't understand. Listen, Chip, let me explain this to you. They do not understand what the term. They do not understand what the term due process means because, again, legal citizenship. See, what they're trying to suggest is that the Constitution applies to anyone, cross the border, and once you get over that imaginary line, the Constitution now protects you. That's what they're trying to get. And remember, if they keep repeating that over and over again, the denunts will repeat it too. And I've got enough arguments with these people that I actually have to keep showing them case law that says that your due process is when a judge says, nope, can't stay here, time to go bye-bye. That's the due process. You're here illegally, you don't qualify for asylum, and you go home. By the way, when Barack Obama was returning people at the border, like he was accepting them and then returning them back into Mexico, he was calling that a deportation. So it didn't matter whether or not you were here for 15 days in the Texas border, in Texas, and you went back to Mexico, he called that 15 days or 15 minutes. He called that a deportation. Never once did those people see a judge. Never. They just were taken and then removed. That's it. No due process.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think I'll get in trouble for saying this, but I think the Democrats and the left, I think they're smoking too much cannabis. They don't. Their brain is not functioning properly. Hey, smoke it, man. But when you go in front of the Congress, and I did feel bad for, again, Christine or Chris Naomi or
Kristi Noem.
She did have. I felt bad for her watching. I only watched it, on the social media for I think it was like 3 minutes.
My wife is like you. My wife is like you. She watched that and she goes, "Why did you be so mean to Kristi Noem?" I said, "Yeah, I totally get it." She did. She stood her ground, though. You have to watch all of it. She stood her ground. She looked good. She looked great. So the excerpts, as you're watching them, make it look like she got quite a beating. But no, she held her own. She did pretty well. I got to go, Chip, but thank you, man. She did. She held herself down. I've got RFK audio as well to play. When we come back, the Connecticut Sun. I promised I was going to talk about this yesterday, but I didn't get into it. I've got an audio soundbite from it from News 12 that I want to talk about. Let me just preface by saying this. Ladies and gentlemen, the Connecticut Sun are leaving Connecticut. And the information that I looked up today all but certifies it. I know the Connecticut Sun is not long for Connecticut. Is that a good thing? No. But there is a way that you can save it. I just don't think anyone's going to do it. I'm going to give you the statistics and the breakdown when we get back, so stick around for that. Connecticut Sun, I looked at the numbers. I'm looking at all of these numbers and the reports. I'll say this much. Let me say this one. Ned Lamont is not putting any weight behind keeping them here. And you'll hear his audio. You'll hear the audio and see if you got the same sense that I did. That he is not going to put any effort in keeping the Connecticut Sun at Mohegan Sun. I'm certain of it. We'll talk about that when we return. Let's get another check of the weather and traffic with Jason Caterina and Mark Christophers in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark.
You know what? The Mohegan Sun is going to get rid of them for sure.
You think so?
They're going to sell it up. They're going to make a huge profit. And earlier last season, they had a game up at TD Garden in Boston. Sold it out without
Don't steal my thunder. That's the biggest thing. That's the big reveal. I have those numbers. It's crazy.
The Mohegan Sun is in the smallest market in the WNBA.
That's correct.
And they want them in a bigger market, and it's going to happen. Unfortunately, it's going to happen.
Yeah, the numbers. I did the numbers. It's incredible.
Oh yeah. They're obviously with the big stars coming into the league now over the last few years. WNBA is getting huge. South Bend.
Reese on the radio is getting ready to drop some knowledge on WTIC News Talk 1080.
Drop it.
We're back. Reese on the radio, News Talk 1080 WTIC. Very soon, we'll take the last but not least caller of the day. Don't be shy, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't call the show regularly, I understand many people are concerned that if somebody recognizes their voice, that somebody might say, "You are conservative." Don't worry about it. Trust me, people love this show. Give us a call in about a little bit, another 40 minutes or so. Give us a call. Be the last but not least caller of the day, so you could win a dozen bagels a month for 6 months, courtesy of Between Rounds, the Bagel Bakery and Sandwich Cafe, located in South Windsor, Manchester, and Vernon. And if I may, I'd like to give a shout-out.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
To Sharon in South Windsor over at Between Rounds. Thank you. And it is beautiful of you to ask and make the request. I won't tell anybody what the request was, but I appreciate you. It's very kind. You have humbled this poor soul. You have no idea. So, Sharon, if you're listening, well, I heard you do. And so I'm very, very appreciative of you even considering it, and I will make sure that that request is met. So I know you weren't expecting the shout-out, but I just want to say, Sharon, at the South Windsor Between Rounds, thank you. I love you for that, and I will absolutely make that happen. In fact, I'll be talking to Jerry about it as well to make sure it happens very soon, and I'll send it to you personally. So as I said in the last break, and I talked a little bit with Mark about it yesterday. In fact, Mark stole my thunder yesterday on the story, but I said I was going to bring it up. I thought it was a compelling story because I remember when I first got here in 2004, the biggest story was about Bob Kraft, the owner of the New England Patriots, making the attempt, or at least giving the impression that he was going to bring the Patriots to Connecticut. And Connecticut was excited about that because it kind of puts the city on the map. And they found out it was nothing more than a ruse to get, it was leverage, if you will. So, of course, he could get Gillette. And that's, what happened. And people were they're still angry about it. Let me just say that. It goes without saying. People are still ticked off about it. So then they get a major franchise. Sure, it's the WNBA. 25 years. 25. I think it's 26 now. 26 long years for a not profitable franchise. And it's nothing against the Connecticut Sun. The WNBA is subsidized by the NBA, and they're both losing money. Okay? But with the emergence of Caitlin Clark, it is blown up. And there are a lot of female basketball superstars. It is unlike the inaugural seasons where plenty of women who a lot of people knew, that sort of fell off. And there was this time where nobody really knew the members of the WNBA. It's few and far between. Well, now forget about it. It's an abundance. And people make claims about what it has to do with white women. But that may be the case, but who knows? Who knows? So I saw this story on News Channel 11. I want to play it for you. And I want you to pay attention at the end to Ned Lamont. And it gave me some pause. That's why I did this research. I don't think Ned Lamont's going to push back on Mohegan Sun or the owners of the Connecticut Sun from leaving. Listen to the end of the piece.
While the Sun gear up to start the regular season this Sunday, the main focus isn't on the court, but rather the front office. It was 1 year ago when the team welcomed a sold-out crowd of nearly 10,000 on opening night. But 12 months later, there are questions and concerns about the future of the franchise.
This is a state that was made for women's basketball.
The Mohegan Native American tribe, which owns the team, recently hired investment bank Allen & Company to explore a potential sale. Team president Jen Rosati called timeout on the idea of the Sun being sold and immediately relocated out of Connecticut. State lawmakers point to the recent $100 million renovation of Hartford's XL Center as a potential landing spot. Governor Lamont says he's not in favor of taxpayers footing a bill to keep the Sun in Connecticut, but he understands how important the team is to hometown fans.
They mean a lot to the state, so I'll be talking to Mohegan Sun and see what the situation is. We want them here.
In a statement, Mohegan Sun leadership says it remains committed to the team's continued success, which includes looking at all strategic options in the best interest of the Connecticut Sun, Mohegan Tribal Gaming Authority, and the WNBA.
So if you heard Ned Lamont, it was like, we want him here. But it didn't sound like a very full-throated support of keeping the team. I'll be talking to them and see what's going on. But we want them here. Of course you do, without a doubt. But Connecticut, unfortunately, you may be the problem. So I started looking at the numbers. And as you heard Mark Christopher bring up, there was this one game last year. And the game was sold out at the TD Bank Garden. But before we get to that, I need to get here. This is important to note. When I looked it up, the average attendance last season, at the Mohegan Sun for the Connecticut Sun was 8,400 people. That's great. For a 9,000 to 10,000 seat stadium, it's not bad. It averages at 8,400. But as you heard Mark Christopher bring up, trying to steal my thunder again, in August of last season, they threw a game, the first WNBA game, up at the TD Bank Garden. In attendance, here's the press release. Today, the Connecticut Sun announced that its game against the Los Angeles Sparks, August 20th at 7 p.m., has officially sold out. The game will make history as the first WNBA game to be held at the storied TD Garden. We're thrilled at our first ever WNBA game at TD Garden, featuring the Connecticut Sun and the Los Angeles Sparks. And it has sold out. That is the president of the TD Garden. Sold out, you say? The Connecticut Sun and Mohegan Sun was getting an average of 8,400 in a 10,000-seat stadium. When they took their first ever game to the TD Garden, They sold out over 19,000 seats. 19,000. Yeah. If your math is going on in your head, that's called double. Folks, it was on August 20th, and something made me go, I wonder what day of the week that was. So I looked it up. It was a Tuesday at 7 p.m. on a school night. At 7 p.m., the WNBA, okay, sold out. As Mark Christopher was alluding, they're going to Boston. How do you not? How do you not? Even if they didn't sell out, even if they came in at less than half, they would still garner another 2,000, maybe 3,000 more than what they're getting at Mohegan Sun. But like I said, the only way that changes is if you get the attendance up. 8,000 is great for a market like Connecticut. It is. It's great. It's fantastic. But the only way it stays here is if there is marketability here. Sure. Are they buying more, Suns paraphernalia like jerseys and others and stuff? I'm sure they are. I'm sure that there's a lot more interest in the WNBA. But the only way it stays is if the fans actually show up. They have to. The draft picks have to be important as well, but they have to show up. And this is where, you have to say to yourself, do I want to keep them here? In order for me to stay here, in order for them to stay here, you're going to have to, let your pocketbook do the talking. But other than that, I think they're going. And Ned Lamont did not seem to, he made that claim. He's like, I don't think I'm going to get taxpayers to pay for this. Which, let me give it to Ned Lamont. Finally thinking about others. But I don't think they stay. I don't think it's reasonable for them to stay. Not if you can get that kind of bank in Boston. And again, I'm not rooting for it. I'm just saying that, look, that's the way that works. So, and maybe I'm wrong. You tell me, 860-522-WTIC, if you believe that the Connecticut Sun really has an interest, because it can't just be lip service that we should do it. We should keep it here for the sake of keeping it here. Right? You can't really say, it'd be wrong, to move them somewhere else just for money. The WNBA is already hemorrhaging cash. How many can the XL Center hold? I do not know, Scott, and I should look that up. I think that, in fact,
Not that much more.
Not that much more? Is it just, what is it, like a 10?
They're doing renovations to make it get bigger.
Right. There's a $100 million renovation that's going on at the XL. So, but you know what? If you really, see, that's the other thing. You have to justify it, though, right? So I can make a I can make a 20,000 seat arena in Connecticut. In order to do that, I've got to fill those seats. Like whoever the promoter is, I've got to fill those seats. I've got to have concerts that mean something.
Oh, actually, it's 16,000. That's not bad.
16,000? Now, look.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Now, the math's got a math, okay? 8,000 is showing up to Mohegan, and all things considered, Mohegan is a distance, right? You got to go all the way out to the east for that, right?
Yeah, it'll be better at XL.
Exactly. So if you bring it to the center of city, that could change, right? You can even expect New Haven to take part in going, because that's what is that, 30-minute drive? You got New Haven going to Hartford to come see the games. That's not bad. People will take that trip. I know people who leave Jersey to go all the way to Yankee Stadium to go watch the Yankees play. And even it's just right across the George Washington Bridge. But they'll go 30, 45 minutes for a game. So 30 minutes out of New Haven, even 40 minutes out of Bridgeport to go see a game, it's not awful. I would not put it in Stamford. I don't care what anybody says. Not going to Stamford. But in Hartford, yeah, the surrounding cities, sure, you might be able to get that attendance up to 10, maybe 15,000. Well, 12,000. I don't think 15. I think that's lofty. So you said the XL Center is 16,000?
Yeah, they probably fit about 30. They probably get about 13, 14 in there.
Yeah, and I think
for the Sun, because a lot of people go.
I think right. Listen, is the distance to where you have to travel to go to watch the Connecticut Sun play in Mohegan. Again, a lot of people in Connecticut are driving. What is that? Is that a 40-minute drive to go to Mohegan from Hartford?
50 minutes.
About 50. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's
it depends on how you drive too.
Yeah, says you. That's a considerable distance. But like I said, if you go to the XL Center, that's if you can keep them there. I think the numbers will grow, and I'm not saying this to be demeaning in any way, if they're trying to maximize their income, they're going to go to Boston. Because, again, even if you don't match that 19,000, because, again, that made no sense. The Los Angeles team against the Connecticut Sun on a Tuesday in August?
Yeah, I think that was a playoff game, though.
Was that a playoff game? No, they start the season in May. Maybe it was a playoff game.
Yeah, I think it was a playoff game.
Was it? Okay. Well, then that makes sense then. That makes sense. So a playoff game pulling in 19,000, yeah. They said the Garden, owned and operated by Delaware North, first opened its doors to the public on the 30th, 19th, revenue expected more than 3. Okay, that's something else. That's unassociated to this story. But like I said, even if you get 10,000 a night, that's more than you do there. And now that you have access, and I think the full access to the Boston market, if you have them at TD, you're looking at all of the outer regions of Boston. So you got Mattapan and Malden and Quincy and Southie, and they got all of these places. The average, I think, what's the population of Boston is anywhere around 600,000. The outer rim of Boston, you're looking at about 1.4 million. Yeah, you can. Yeah, without a doubt, you can keep that place.
They'll keep it packed in there.
Yeah, they'll keep it
at least
packed.
15,000.
Exactly, and if they're a contender, if they're a playoff contender, forget about it. Titletown.
They were playoff contender here. Went to the WNBA finals.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
I was at the last finals game they had at CT Sun.
Yeah, so I don't know. I just don't think that there's a lot of enthusiasm to keep them. I think they're going to go.
That's too bad, man.
Yeah, and maybe, like I said, Connecticut, you can keep them, but it's going to really take a bunch of people jumping in and actually start going to the games. And, you've got to flood the zone with attendance and the whole 9 yards. Mark Christopher's in the BPS Traffic Center. Mark, I just wanted to say before you look, that game on August 20th was on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
It was on a Tuesday.
Well, the Boston Metro's 5 million people. Hartford Metro's 1.1 million. I mean, it's way bigger than Hartford. And plus, they're not even in Hartford. They're in Nashville. Well, they're down in in the southeastern part of the state.
Yeah, exactly.
And
it's so far to get there.
Yeah, they're in Mashantucket.
Yeah.
Which that whole area is maybe a couple 100,000 people. It's really small.
Yeah.
Plus, I really disagree with what they're doing with the Hartford Civic Center. This is a building that is totally outdated. They're throwing $100 million at it. The building went up originally in 1975. It opened up for $30 million.
Wow.
And then when the roof collapsed, it went from 10,000 to just over 16,000 for basketball. But I don't know. Throwing $100 million at a building that's really outdated to me is insane.
And you brought exactly, and you're not bringing a major sports team there. It is a waste of money.
You know what? I mean, you got UConn. A lot of the money is going into the behind the scenes, so concerts are more attractive for concerts.
True.
So they better bring in some concerts, or this is going to be a big waste of money.
Exactly.
And there's so many concert venues now. I don't know how that's going to work. Yeah. But there again, you build a new building, you could host NCAA stuff and all that, but I don't think they're going to do that.
Hi, this is WTIC News Talk 1080 Operations Manager Steve Salhaney. Happy birthday, WTIC News Talk 1080.
Steve, what's going on, buddy? Reese on the radio, we are almost out of here. Tomorrow, don't forget, Mrs. on the Radio joins the program.
Yes, it's ladies' night overnight.
We'll talk about whatever is going on. Actually, I found out some interesting news this morning. And I waited 4 or 5 weeks. I went, every year you got to go get an eye exam. And back in April, I got this eye exam, and the doctor comes in. It's just one of those student ones, it's a learning center kind of deal. It's like going to like a barber school. But this is an eye doctor school. So they have an actual eye doctor there, but these kids are, college, students taking care of your eyes. Anyway, so we get a real doctor at the end, and the doctor comes in and looks at my eyes. And in April, the doctor says, wow, like talking about degeneration, like no signs of it. It looks like your eyesight's great. It's fantastic. Anyway, so I wait 5 weeks because they have to get me a new kind of contact. They want to try a new contact on me, which is, I guess it's a bifocal, right? So, you get older, so for distance and for, near sight and far sight, whatever. I don't understand it. I was barely listening. So I let my wife do it because she used to work in an optometrist office. So she knows a little bit about this stuff. And she loves going to this doctor appointment because she gets to hobnob with people, the students and stuff, and sort of test her knowledge. Anyway, I digress. Anyway, so we have this other physician who comes in, and he's got to go over the same test that they did. So I'm almost like getting a second test with a second opinion. And he's doing the beam of light in my eyes, which, again, baffles my mind because they say don't look into the sun during an eclipse. But this guy puts a ray of light right through my brain, which I never can understand. Anyway, he does that. And then he says the words you don't want to hear. He goes, yeah, looks like we're seeing the onset of cataracts. And I went, oh, come on. And then he says, yeah, but, I'm just telling you, I see a little bit of it. I mean, it's not going to be a problem for another 10 to 15 years. Then he says the words that you're never supposed to say to a patient. Never supposed to say. If you live that long. So I went, what? Who says that? Who said, you're not going to have to worry about it for another 10 to 15 years if you live that long. I'm no longer concerned about my cataracts. Let's get another check of the weather and traffic with Jason Catarino with weather and Mark Christopher in the BPS Traffic Center. Have you ever had cataract surgery? You're a little older than me. Are you concerned yet?
I had both of them done.
You had both done?
One in my 40s, like my mid-40s.
Isn't that early?
50s.
Isn't that early to get it done?
My dad had them done early, too. Maybe it's something hereditary.
Oh, he did say that. He said that, I'm 55, so he said I'm supposed to start seeing signs of it. But he says I'm really early.
Listen, if your vision goes bad because of a cataract, go in there, get it done. It is the easiest thing.
Yeah?
So the only thing that's kind of a pain is you got to wear an eye patch for 24 hours.
That's nothing. I've done that.
But you literally go in, they put you under propofol. You can hear the doctors. You can hear the noise in the room. You're sort of half out of it.
Yeah.
And it looks like a TV screen late at night in the old days when the station went off the air.
Yeah.
And all you saw with the fuzz.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I had LASIK surgery. This sounds incredibly like that.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's no pain. You got to go back for a visit a week later and then a month later. But literally, it's real easy. It's just wearing a patch for 24 hours. So don't hesitate if you have to do it. It's really no big deal at all. Hey, if you're
What's up, everybody? You know who it is. You know who it is. You know who it is. It's Reese on the radio. Frederick Douglass of the 21st century.
It's WTIC News Talk 1080.
All right, we're back. It's Reese on the radio, News Talk 1080. We are almost out of here. If you would like to win an opportunity, or at least get the opportunity, to get a dozen bagels a month for 6 months, contact us at 860-522-WTIC, 860-522-9842. You can win a dozen bagels a month for 6 months, courtesy of Between Rounds, your bagel bakery and sandwich cafe. And they will send it to you. So get on the phone now to do that. I got some very, very disturbing news that just came over the wire. So, of course, as we do things here at Reese on the Radio, we do it with a lot of pageantry. So let me make sure that I do this right. Whenever there is breaking news, we do breaking news. Is that it right there? Where is it? I thought I had it. I thought I was just looking right at it. I thought I set this up. And, of course, I don't. I don't have it set up, which, again, sucks in and of itself. Okay, it's not here. All right, my apologies. I'm sorry. We'll do it next time. But anyway, if you're watching online, you can see that picture there. And that is the
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Account of none other than the former FBI director, James Comey, whom Donald Trump fired. And if you're looking at that picture, I'll describe it to you if you're listening on the radio or listening online. It is a picture of the sand with seashells in a formation of numbers. And the numbers are 8647. Again, the formation of shells is 8647 with the caption, "Cool shell formation on my beach walk." Is the message cryptic? Yes, it is. 8647. Anybody want to take a wild guess on what that means? Roland, you're familiar with that term, aren't you? If somebody writes 8647, what do you think it means? If you had to guess.
I wouldn't know.
You wouldn't? Okay. Well, here's the question they're asking online. Did former FBI Director James Comey call for the assassination of Donald Trump? James Comey posted a cryptic message on his Instagram account today, which spelled out in seashells 8647. 86 means elimination. 47 is Donald Trump's number as president of the United States, the 47th president of the United States. Now, you might remember Maxine Waters used to run around selling T-shirts and hats that said impeach 45 when Donald Trump was the 45th president of the United States. But someone like a former FBI director would know that a veiled threat is just as significant as an actual one. And coming from an FBI director, that seems bold. Many people have responded to this, and in one particular person said, and I quote, "Wow, did you just call for the assassination of my dad?" And that was Donald Trump Jr. in reposting James Comey's Twitter post. How else do you put it? If there's anyone who should know better, it should be that guy. But look, as I said before, and people do not pay attention to me, this thing about Trump derangement, it has nothing to do with Donald Trump. It has everything to do with the mindset of the individual. Here is James Comey so angry with Donald Trump, his existence. He is willing to jeopardize his own career, his own status as an individual, to post something like that. He is so demented that he would put that out there knowing that someone would make hay about it. I'm so angry at Donald Trump that I would put this out there. The derangement, it only affects them. Only. Who was that supposed to affect? That doesn't affect Donald Trump in any way. James Comey is now going to have to show up on MSNBC, and they're going to have to do whatever they can in their power to salvage him from his own undoing. That's what that is. That's what that's about. Let's go to Steve in Waterbury. Hey, Steve.
Hey, in all fairness, the 86 could also mean reject or discard or whatever, but that's not the original reason I called it. But it does come to mind. Do you remember Get Smart, the TV show?
I'm sorry, what was the name of the TV show?
Get Smart.
Oh, Get Smart. Yes, Agent 86.
Right. Agent 86, right.
Right.
Matter of fact, he's done rolling about it because I forgot if he was 88 or whatever case may be, but back when he was on the air. Getting back to your cataracts was part of the reason why I called. First of all, there was an old joke about doctor told the guy he only had 6 months to live. The guy says, I can't possibly pay my bill in that amount of time, so he gave him another 6 months.
I love that joke. I do. I love that joke because it talks a lot about the medical industry. That's what's so fantastic about
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
You're not a smoker, are you, or do you smoke?
I'm an ex-smoker. I haven't had a drink going on 6 years and haven't had a smoke in more than 4.
Well, got to go out and celebrate that.
Right.
But seriously, that's awesome. But you also want to avoid like UV rays, and when you're out tanning, you want to put on the Polaroid glasses there.
It's crazy that I think about, again, as I was talking about the eye test that he was giving me. There's the one for those of you who've been to the eye doctor recently, I know you're familiar with it, but they tell you to put your chin inside the device, and then they put, they shine the light inside your eyes, almost like a microscope, but it's a big bright light that goes through your eye, and they turn it a certain way so it goes over your eye. You got to look directly into them and not blink, which is difficult to do. But when they're shining it in my eye, the whole time I'm going there, I said to the young lady who was doing it today, and I said, it's so interesting that in one breath they tell you don't stare directly into the sun during an eclipse, but here you guys will shine a freaking like a bright light right through my eyes. And she says to me, "Oh no, this is different." I was like, "Why?" Because it's 2 inches from my face, as opposed to, it's like.
Did they take a?
Yes.
Did they take a picture of your eyeball?
Not this time. They usually do that. Like my ex-wife, it's so funny. My last wife and my current wife both used to be optometry technicians. They both did the same job. And my ex-wife used to do it all the time. She would take pictures of my eye, and I would look at it. I have no idea what I'm supposed to be looking at because, it's too advanced for me. But these people, they, the tests that they do are incredible. Steve, what's the thing that they do? They put, I don't know what it is, but they put it in the eye. They put you an eye drop in the eye. No, yeah, it does dilate, but there's another one that they do that numbs the eye so they can poke your eyeball.
Oh, geez, I haven't had that done, but yeah.
Yeah, what's it called, sweetheart? Okay, yeah, it's checking the ocular pressure. Okay. I will admit the first time I ever had that done was when I was going to get my LASIK surgery. And I'd never had that test done. And so the guy says, "Look, I'm going to put these in your eye. They're going to make your eyeballs numb." And the first thing I ran through my head was, I was like, "Oh, why would you make my eyeballs numb?" He goes, "Because we're going to poke you in the eye." And I went, "Hey, what are you talking about?" Like, you can't just surprise a guy with a poke in the face, right? So he turns around and he says, No. We checked the pressure or the dexterity, I should say, of the eye. So anyway, he does it. While I'm awake, which I would have rather have been asleep. Well, he does it. Sure. And it looks like, to give an example, if you've never had it done, imagine being underwater and somebody putting a finger in the water and you watching the ripples, but right on your eye. That's what it was like. It was so freaky to watch that sort of like that ripple effect on your eyeball. And I went, there's a part of me that just went, "That's amazing." But the other side of it is just, did he just poke me in the face? Like, is he poking me in the eye? It's crazy.
I think I'd rather get a shot of air. And do you mind if I mention a movie really quick? I was hoping to get this in yesterday.
Sure.
Did you ever see the movie Being There?
No, Peter Sellers, right?
Peter Sellers. You got to see it.
Never
this guy
did.
Was a gardener that was a savant.
Yes.
And he worked for a billionaire. The guy gave him his hand-down clothes. The guy's passed away. So he got hit by a car driven by Shirley MacLaine's chauffeur.
Yes.
And they were worried about getting sued, so they brought him home. All this guy knew was gardening. So every time he spoke about gardening. They thought he was a great philosopher. And it kind of reminds me of the Democrats and how they view their top people.
Now I have to go see it now.
They thought he was a genius.
Yeah,
I hope you do. Let me know.
You got it. I definitely will, Steve. Thank you so much. I'm actually going to think about watching that tonight. Now I have to convince my wife to watch it. I appreciate it. That's an interesting movie. I know all you have to do is say being there. I know it's Peter Sellers. I didn't watch a lot of his movies. I will say this. I did watch a lot of the Pink Panther films that I watched. Our last but not least caller. Could it be my brother from another mother? No, I'm only kidding. It's not set up. James in Windsor. Is that you, James?
Hey, Kid Reese, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine, sir. What's going on?
Good. Okay. We were on the subject of the eye.
Yes.
I have a joke for you.
Okay.
There was this one guy. He had a false eye, and every night he used to put it in a glass of water and put it on the side of his bed. So one day he woke up, like in the middle of the night, he was thirsty as all hell. So he reached for the glass with the eye in it, and he didn't even think, he just drank it. But he had an eye appointment the next day. Well, he had a doctor's appointment the next day.
Mm-hmm.
So as the doctor was in the process of taking care of him, he kept looking at what the doctor was doing. The doctor says, "Look, dude, you're going to have to trust me. You're going to have to trust me." So it was a head to toe test.
Yes, a head to toe examination, right?
Yeah. So he was the last part was his bottom part.
Yes.
So the doctor went to like spread his cheeks, and the guy eye poked out of his butthole. So the doctor looked at him and said, "Hey man, you gotta trust me. I'm the doctor. You gotta trust me. Stop watching me."
That's not.
That's the joke.
Thank you, James. I appreciate you. It's an honor to give you our last but not least caller of the day. You earned it. We'll make sure he gets a dozen bagels. Interestingly enough, I have to give him bagels after that that joke. Never mind. It just goes in another direction. Courtesy of Between Rounds, the Bagel Bakery and Sandwich Cafe, located in South Windsor, Manchester, and Vernon. Also, let me see. Lori mentioned, I saw this in the chat room. Lori said she had her cataract surgery at 50. But I never really think about that stuff until someone mentions it, and now I can't stop thinking about it. You know, now that he's mentioned it, I'm going, which, look, if he says another 10, 15 years, we're looking at me being 70 before I need it, which I should be happy about, right? 70 years old getting cataract surgery, that seems about right. But now all of you guys are telling me you're getting it at 50. Mark Christopher's having his early. I'm not going to have mine early. I'm going to wait until like it gets to that point where I can't see my wife. That's what I'm talking about. My wife told me that she had one of her patients who said that he had cataract surgery. He said because he wasn't seeing very well. He said after the surgery was done, he looked up and he was like, "Wow, I really, really can see." He said, I looked at my wife and I said, "Wow, she's gotten really unattractive." That's just mean.
That hurts.
That's hurt.
Oh my goodness, you can't say that.
I know, but I couldn't believe that he actually
can't
said
think it either.
Yes, exactly.
Oh man.
As I always say, radio is free, so we thank you for paying attention. Remember to keep JC in your hearts and in your minds. So Patrick, we love you and we miss you. Remember that panic is not planning, so plan your work and work your plan. Me, I'm Reese on the radio.
You could think it all you want.
Jason Caterina's got your weather getting home, and our good friend Mark Christopher is in the BPS Traffic Center. You're off tomorrow, right? You're out of here tomorrow.
I am off tomorrow. Yes,
Okay.
I'll be back Monday. We're gonna be back, ready to go, leading up to the Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
All next week.
Big
So
deal.
looking forward to that.
Have a good one, sir.
Hey, Reese, thank you. You too. And if you're heading into Hartford right now, Southbound 91.
All right, good sir.
All right, good show. Good
You're
show.
sluggish again.
One more day.
S&N down to exit 23 in Rocky Hill. Earlier
Just
accident
one
between
more.
23 and 22.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
All right, I had my year eye exam in December with 0 issues, but April I couldn't see anything out of my left eye. Really, Lori? Wow. Damn. Matt says, I'm sure nepotism for another plaque. I didn't know he was going to call. He said he was a really big fan of Beverly Hills Cop. Peter Sellers did? I didn't know that. James Comey is my uncle. I take offense to that. Every year for my birthday, he gave me untraceable bear bonds. Does that sound shady? Yeah, it does. Anyway, all right, guys. I will see y'all tomorrow. I'm about to go out to dinner with Jerry over at Between Rounds. There's some sort of weird thing going on here. So I got to get out of here. I love you guys. Always take care of yourselves. All right? See you tomorrow.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you want to get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No